Hello, I'm Henry.
And I'm Trey, and welcome to Marvelous, a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast.
Where we go through the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, show by show, movie by movie, in order of release. And today we're going to be talking about Captain America, the First Avenger. Here's what they say on IMDb. Steve Rogers, a rejected military soldier, transforms into Captain America after taking a dose of a super soldier serum. But being Captain America comes at a price as he attempts to take down a warmonger and a terrorist organization.
That seems like a lengthier description than it needed to be.
Yeah, this one's... Yeah, it's a little bit longer than the other ones we've read. And also, would you really call Hydra a terrorist organization?
I mean, yes, since they want to destroy the world.
I mean, there's a difference between wanting to destroy the world and wanting to strike fear into the hearts of everyone. Like, in the future, they intended on being a terrorist organization that's in control of the world, but I don't know, it just seems like a weird description to me.
Well, wouldn't you consider an organization who sends, missiles to destroy New York a terrorist organization?
They're not even missiles, they're rocket helicopters with people and pilots. I don't know. I totally forgot that there's pilots in them.
Still.
We could talk about that later, because that was weird.
I also think they make it sound really easy. Like, he just takes a serum and then he's Captain America. Which...
Yeah, that's one thing about Captain America is it never really makes sense that they could only make one. Like, did he really never take any notes? Ever?
It seemed like they kept it in his head because, he didn't want it to get into the wrong hands.
This isn't how science works. You don't, make entire serums just from memory. He clearly had notes somewhere. He had to have had them.
Yeah, probably.
Whatever. So, Trey, what did you think about this movie the first time you saw it? And when did you see it, actually?
The first time I watched this movie was after I'd seen Avengers, and I think I was at a friend's house, and they wanted to watch it because they had seen it in theaters and liked it, and, it's my friend's dad who's, super patriotic, so anytime a movie's patriotic, he, loves it.
America!
Yeah. So we ended up watching it there. And, I was just mildly curious after Avengers. And, I thought the movie had... a lot of it was kind of boring, but overall I thought it was pretty decent, pretty good. Better than I thought it would be.
Fair enough.
What about you?
Yeah, so before I even saw the movie, I was very confused about the entire concept of Captain America. He just seemed a little too silly and goofy for me. But I like how the movie takes advantage of that and shows you how he was used in silly, goofy ways, but how he really wanted to be serious, and how eventually he becomes a real hero as Captain America. So I liked it originally. I don't remember how amazing I thought it was, but I liked it a lot.
And what do you think now?
I still really like it. Trey, what do you think of the movie now?
Now I think it's pretty much a cinematic masterpiece.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I was about to say those are some fighting words. But I'm just... Okay, that seems...
I mean, the visual and narrative style is just on point, and the character depth of, everyone involved in this movie, I think, is pretty great. So, I think this movie's amazing.
Fair enough.
All right, so getting into the movie, we start with the discovery of Captain America's shield in some icy place.
Yes. Flashback to the past.
Yes, and the first thing we see is Hydra attacking Filch's burial ground.
Yeah, I love how there's only 5 British actors. I like this whole scene because Johann Schmidt, the Red Skull, his entire plan is based off Norse legends, which brings us back to Thor. Because the Tesseract, which is what he was seeking, is legendarily a treasure of Odin. And they talk about the Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life, and everything. I like how it tied back to Thor.
I didn't even notice that.
Well, it did.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, he takes the Tesseract and kills the people. And then we meet Steve Rogers.
Oh my god, his voice does not match that body.
It really doesn't.
Oh, it's so weird.
We meet Steve Rogers in the army, like, enlistment camp or whatever, trying out to be a soldier for like the 5th time or something.
But he's basically handicapped. Like,
Yeah.
he has asthma and is tiny and weak.
Bunch of health issues. And they tell him, you're ineligible because you would die.
Yep, and this was his 4th attempt.
Yes. Which shows Steve's deep need to serve his country. After he fails to get enlisted, we move to a movie theater where they're showing an advertisement for patriotic war things and telling people to be a soldier and enlist.
And Rogers gets in a fight because someone just wants their cartoons too much.
Yeah, some guy's being disrespectful about the war thing, so they end up in an alley fighting, and Steve uses a trash can as a shield for the first time.
And he could do this all day.
Yeah, which I really just... It just shows, like, the depth of Steve's character, like, right from the start. Like, he's firm and standing up for his beliefs, even though he's clearly going to get beaten down. Like, he's going to lose this fight, but he's going to, like, do it anyway.
Yeah, it says a lot about his character and how how much resolve he has, even though he hasn't really had the chance to back it up yet.
Yeah. It's really interesting for a weak guy to be so, like, intent on getting beat down for what he believes in. And then Bucky comes in, and that's when we meet him at the end of that fight, and he's like, go pick on someone your own size, you butthead.
Hooligan!
And we find out Steve lied on his enlistment form, which is illegal. This is one thing that I feel doesn't quite fit Steve's character, which is what I find so interesting. Like, his need to serve his country is that deep that he's willing to be illegal and actually lie, like, on his form.
I mean, he's doing whatever it takes. He's desperate.
And I get that. It just seems so out of what we see of him.
It does seem out of character because part of his whole thing is, like, honesty and that kind of stuff. But he is utterly desperate because he believes that people are fighting in his stead, and that's just not right. So I'll accept it, even though it's a little odd for him.
Yeah, same.
Yes, so now we go to the Stark Expo where Bucky and Rogers go on a little double date. We meet Howard Stark for the first time and see his flying car that fails kind of epically. And Rogers once again tries to enlist in the army, but this time he was seen in the front of the enlistment office by a Dr. Abraham.
Before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about Stark, because just every single movie so far has referenced a Stark in, like, a big way.
Hulk doesn't mention it that much.
Tony is in the movie.
Oh, sorry. I always forget about that scene. Yes, you're correct.
So, yeah. I'm like, is this just, like, constantly banking on the fact that Iron Man's the most popular? Because, damn, so much Stark.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that before. But I like Howard Stark. He's funny. And it's funny that during his show, he acts very much like Tony. Like, ladies' man, has a bunch of showgirls. Tony just had the modern version of it in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I saw that a lot, too. It was definitely interesting.
Yeah, and although the two of them hated each other, well, we don't really know what Howard Stark really thought in the end. They are very similar people.
Yep.
But Howard is more zany.
He is more zany. To be honest, I think I like him more.
I like them both quite a lot.
Yeah, that's... Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to say anything about Bucky and Rogers, their little talk before he goes into the office? I figured you might want to.
I do, yeah. So Steve's I want to talk about Steve's reasoning for his actions, because he says his reason for why he wants to enlist so badly is that there are men laying down their lives, and he's got no right to do any less than them. And I feel like there's something to unpack there. Like, he has to give as much as everyone else is giving, and just, I don't know, he seems to have this deep need to, like, sacrifice himself for his country. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I mean, it just shows his resolve and also shows how reckless he is, because it's not like he knew about the super serum program. He literally would have been useless out there. But he also wants to prove to himself and others that he can fight just as hard as anyone else. So it's one of those things where it's like, is he really fighting for America, or is he really fighting for himself?
I can kind of see why you would think that, but I just don't see anything selfish in it.
It's selfish because he thinks it needs to be him protecting everyone else, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call that selfish, but I do think it's strange that he's like, I have to be out there saving people.
Yeah, that just wasn't the right word. I just couldn't think of the best one.
Yeah. But it's definitely, I don't know. It's strange. I don't know the word for it.
Anyways, Tiny Rogers, he tells Bucky, don't win the war until I get there. And then he goes into the office, where he meets up with Dr. Abraham.
We didn't talk about the fact that Bucky is, like, completely disapproving of Steve trying to get into the army.
Because it seems suicidal. It's reasonable.
I know. And I agree, though he also doesn't believe in Steve, like, at all, to be honest.
I think he's just being realistic.
I think he's being realistically harsh.
Yeah, that's their relationship.
Realistically harsh?
Yeah, haven't you ever had a bromance?
I don't... I don't know.
Well, Trey, I can tell you. That's how it is.
Okay. After this scene takes place, Steve goes in to meet Abraham Erskine. And...
I mean, long story short, Abraham sees his resolve and his kind-hearted nature and thinks that he's the perfect example for who he would want to receive the superhero serum. Which, once we learn more about his background, it's also because he has seen how it affected the Red Skull, and he knows it'll exaggerate their traits, and he doesn't want anyone with even an ounce of evil in him. He wanted someone with a pure and honest heart, who would understand and respect the power that he was granted by the serum.
Which makes him approve Steve for the army. And then we cut to Zola and Red Skull, harnessing energy from the Tesseract to power their weapons.
Well, I was just going to say, one thing about Zola that's interesting is that they show him as a very nervous person, and that he is not really okay with everything that's going along. But since he's so afraid of Schmidt, he will follow anyways. And that's something they show more and more as the movie goes on.
I'm gonna be honest, I was confused by his portrayal a bit.
Only talking about this movie, it seemed reasonable. It was very consistent throughout the entire time.
I guess I didn't really notice it at this point, but later on, I don't know, we can talk about it later on.
Yeah.
So Agent Carter comes in, shows that she's the boss, and punches a dude who speaks out.
He just wants to know why there's a British woman here.
Yes.
He did nothing wrong.
Well, he did.
The poor man. Yeah, I know.
he did insinuate sexual things.
Yes. Well, one thing quickly to note is this is very different than how Black Widow was portrayed in the last movie. This is how you properly portray a woman character.
Yes, Peggy's much better. So then we go through, I don't know if it's really a montage, but we go through the training.
Yeah, it's honestly, that one thing about the training is Steve is comically bad at things. Like, I understand he can't keep up while they're running, but like him falling down the road and him not even being able to do a jumping jack or push up properly, even if he couldn't do many, it was just a little too much to me.
I didn't get that at all.
I don't know. I just know when I saw him falling down the netted ropes thing, it was kind of just like silly. Like it should have been a montage showing that he was trying his best and keeping up almost, but still he just physically wasn't there.
I thought it did show that.
They showed that with like the flag thing where he uses brains over his brawn, but he never was really catching up at all. That's reasonable. Everyone else was super fit.
He was trying to do everything exactly the same as the other guys, though. So I don't see it as him not trying to succeed and like falling behind that much.
Yeah, fair enough. It just seemed kind of weird.
Okay.
I think it's partially just because I can't get used to him with that voice and that tiny body.
The voice and the head on the tiny body is strange.
Yeah, it's awkward.
There are times when the head, like, they make the head work, and there are other times when it's like, okay,
it looks way too big.
Yeah. But it's understandable with the effects, and, like, I don't know how difficult that would be.
They did a pretty decent job.
Yeah. And I think it's better that we get that than, I don't know, changing actors.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They should have just recorded the first few scenes and then have him go on a crazy workout thing for like a year. It would have been fine.
He would have had to lose so much weight to do those first scenes skinny.
Oh, okay. I was about to say he would have had to gain so much weight to do the other ones. But yeah. I was just joking.
Yeah, no, he's like normally buff, so.
Yeah, I know. I was just kidding around. He'd also have to gain a foot or lose a foot.
Yeah, I do think one thing they could have done better, though, is that they should have edited his voice before transformation. It might not have been easy or possible, but I think it would have helped.
Yeah. Or they could have just changed the inflection of how he talked a little bit. It was just a little off-putting.
Yeah.
But this is coming from having seen him in like 5 other films.
Well, to be honest, it was less off-putting to me this time because I'm used to it now. But it was super off-putting the first time I watched it and the first couple times.
Yeah.
Moving forward, we have the flag scene that you touched on briefly. All the guys fail to get the flag. That the leader is like, if anybody gets this flag, you can ride back to camp with us. And Steve just goes in and pulls the pin out of the bottom to get it after everyone's done trying, which that was pretty cool.
It was funny.
And it shows that he's...
Brains of a brawn.
Yeah, it shows that he's not just a dumb soldier. He does have some smarts.
Yeah. Though they don't really ever show him to be that smart pre-serum. Like, he's not a nerdy skinny guy. He's just skinny.
Well, I'm saying they don't show him to be dumb either.
Yeah.
Like, he's pretty... He's got street smarts. He's not bad. He's better than the normal guys.
Yeah, street smarts is like the perfect words.
Yes. So then we go to Erskine and the Colonel. Do you know the Colonel's name, Tommy Lee Jones?
No, I always just think of him as the Colonel.
Okay. The Colonel, they argue over Steve's ability to be the one who takes the serum, because the Colonel wants the bully dude named Hodge.
The same guy that Peggy punched in the face in the first scene at the military camp.
Oh, was it?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. I knew that it was the guy that, like, dropped the frigging barbed wire on Steve, and I'm like, seriously?
Yeah. The whole point was showing that he's the bully, and this is the one that they would normally want, but Steve Rogers is the real candidate.
I'm just like, why are you even here? You're not a hero. Go away.
He's there to be different in a butt.
I got it, yeah. Just in the army, he doesn't belong there. Anyways. But Erskine wants someone who's good on the inside, and they show that by throwing the grenade. Well, the Colonel thinks that that's going to be Hodge's way of showing how he's the fit one, but Hodge just runs away like everybody else except Steve, because he jumps on it and is like...
He cradles it in his body. I don't know if that's how you should do that. I feel like you should lay flat on top of it, but whatever. It doesn't matter.
Probably would have worked either way.
Yeah.
Which is just like, I don't know, it's like the purest form of heroism, but it also just
shows... reckless and crazy.
I wouldn't call it reckless. I would call it, like, extremely self-sacrificial. Like he just wants to sacrifice himself to help others. Like he doesn't even care about preserving his own self at all.
Not wanting to preserve himself at all. I think that's called reckless.
Reckless usually, I don't know, that term sounds selfish to me, and I don't think it's selfish.
Fair enough. I feel like there's a better way to describe his behavior. He doesn't view his own life as that important in the great scheme of things.
Exactly. Which is sad, but I guess that's what makes him a good Captain America.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to be just like everyone else, but better, but also not better, because he's just a guy from Brooklyn.
He just wants to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next scene is Erskine. Is it Erskine or Erskine?
I've been calling him Dr. Abraham. I don't know. I didn't write down his name because I couldn't pronounce it.
Okay, so Dr. Erskine, maybe, sits Steve down and explains his own story of how he got here.
How he made the Red Skull.
Exactly. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I mean, I kind of hinted on it earlier, how he talked about how he was kind of forced by Hitler to work on scientific research and superhero serums, and one of the things that he created was the Red Skull, who, after taking the serum, he got worse. He got crazier and angrier, but also stronger and more powerful. And soon after, he escaped and joined the Allied forces in order to create a good super soldier.
Yep, and this is the scene where he says, good men become great and bad men become worse, and how a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion, whereas a strong man may lose respect for his power, which is why he chooses Steve.
Indeed. The next day, they arrive in New York City to perform the experiment on Steve. It is in New York because they needed the city's power, which is something I found weird until they explained that they needed the city's power. And there's the car ride to the experiment with Peggy, where we learn that Captain America is horrible with women.
Yep, and he's never danced with one.
And he's gotten beaten up in a lot of alleys.
That is correct. But he is waiting to dance with the right partner. Hint, hint, it will be Peggy Carter.
Who could have seen it coming? The only girl in the movie who talks for more than one scene.
Oh my gee, yes.
It's amazing.
So then they arrive, and he gets bombarded with Vita rays and injected with the serum.
So anyways, the experiment works, and Captain America comes out real buff and tall, and Peggy wants to appreciate the bod, almost touches it, but holds herself back.
As any woman...
Everyone wants to touch the bod.
I know.
Howard is amazed too. He's like, wow.
All the guys are touching the bod.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, you did touch on this before, but I also had a note saying, like, it's interesting how Stark has basically a hand in, like, he bred two superheroes, starting with Captain America, and then his own son became one later.
Yep. You're right. That's kind of funny.
So, yeah. And then the guy from the State Department causes an explosion, shoots Erskine, and takes the serum, which is an interesting parallel I found to Yinsen, actually.
How so?
Because both Abraham Erskine and Yinsen helped turn the heroes in their movies into soldiers before getting killed by the enemy.
Huh, I hadn't thought about that. And they were both very deeply connected to the characters, and they bonded greatly.
Yep, and then they both get killed and send the heroes on their journey.
The master must always die.
Exactly.
Even though neither of them were really the I mean, you could say Dr. Abraham was, but I wouldn't say Yinsen was.
Yeah, just influential character. Well, he did help Tony a lot with building that suit.
Yeah, but he was still the assistant.
True. And he did save Tony's life with the heart thing. And
yes, but I still wouldn't call him the master.
Fair enough. Anyways, we go to the chase scene Or did you have anything else to say about that scene, actually, before we get there?
No. I mean, at first I was a little bit confused why the spy didn't do anything before the experiment finished, but my guess is the reasoning is they wanted to see if it would actually work. And it did. Well, actually, they don't know, because he didn't stick around long enough to check. I don't know what they know about Red Skull's experiment. Did his face just fall off while this experiment was going on?
I think it was pretty obvious when the skinny tiny dude turned into hunk of muscle.
But maybe he would, explode. I don't know. It's just a little weird.
I think it's safe to assume that would be his only chance to steal the serum and get away, so...
But he also should have just shot Captain America. It's like, hey, look, it worked pretty well. Take serum and run. It was weird. That seemed like a strange plan. They shouldn't have left Captain America there. Though to be fair, it is reasonable to assume one super soldier will not make that big of a difference. It is not reasonable to assume that this is the only serum in existence.
Sure. But considering how many people were there and how many people were around Captain America and how many agents were in that building, I still think it's completely understandable that he just shot.
He had a bomb. He had a bomb, and he exploded the observation room where no one was, instead of the location where everyone else was. He should have thrown the bomb from above. I don't know, it was weird.
Well, he couldn't. He couldn't explode Captain America, or else we wouldn't have movies, Henry.
Okay, fine. Well, he runs away with the serum, and Captain America runs after him, running through a lot of traffic. And he's really clumsy because he doesn't really understand his powers yet.
Which is hilarious. He falls through a window on the way.
Yep. Into a wedding store thing.
Yeah. And he uses a cab door as another shield. He's really into those shields, this Cap.
Yep, this is shield number 2 or 3, I believe.
Shield number 2, yeah.
Oh, how did I not keep up a count of this? I'm so disappointed in myself right now. Seriously, how? This is totally a thing I would do.
I'm disappointed in you, Henry.
You should be. Yeah, so Captain America blocks the spy's guns with the car door shield, and the spy escapes, jumps into his super cool submarine, and Cap just dives in after and punches him out and punches through the window, breaks him out of the submarine, and before he could capture him, the Hydra agent killed himself.
With a cyanide pill.
Yep.
Yeah, though before he gets there, I do just want to say, I loved that he tried to take a kid hostage and threw him into the lake, and the kid's like, completely...
Don't
worry, I can swim.
Yeah, I love that kid.
I'm like... Because every superhero movie, in the past, has always been, I have to save this kid now and can't get the bad guy, I'm like, this is a great scene. Thank you.
I agree. I love Swimmer Kid.
But, yeah, so the serum breaks and the guy kills himself. But Steve does find out that it is Hydra.
Yes. Then we flash over to Schmidt, who is hosting some top representatives from Hitler, and they are not happy with the work of Hydra. And during this meeting, Schmidt says, my enemies instead of the Fuhrer's enemies or something like that, and kills representatives. And we see that Hydra has now gone rogue and is separate from just the Nazis.
Yeah, and this was when I noticed Zola looking all scared when he started killing those guys. And I don't know, it seemed like almost regretful, and to be honest, I guess I don't really understand his character, because he seems committed to the work, but then if he's that regretful and scared of when people are actually getting killed, it seems off.
It kind of seems like he's partially a hostage, in a sense. He's similar to Abraham, where he was forced to do scientific work that he would have enjoyed under normal circumstances, but doesn't appreciate that it's being used for violence. He's interested in the technology, but he's not interested in what it's used for.
I can't talk about this without spoilers.
I know. It's really hard to talk about this character. In this podcast, we know he's not dead at the end of the movie. So, yeah. Now the world has seen Captain America in action, and people are impressed.
And the Colonel says that they're going to go after Hydra, but since Erskine is dead and he can't make more super soldiers, he decides to completely write off the one that he has.
Well, he wanted to use and to send Cap to a research center so they could reverse engineer the serum from his blood.
Okay.
So that they could in the future make more. It's true that one super soldier is probably not enough. They haven't seen him in action, so they don't really expect one man to be enough. They were expecting to have an entire platoon of super soldiers.
Yes. Okay, so I don't know
This
why.
is also a battle with guns. Why would you expect a man who can run and jump really high, and run really fast and jump really high to make that big of a difference? I think saving him for research so that they can make more long term would be a much better plan, even if it would take years.
So I don't know why every time I watch this movie, this doesn't come across to me. Like, in this scene, I never understand that he wants to use Steve as a lab rat to make the serum again. It always just seems like he's like, well, I can't have more soldiers, so I'll just ignore the one that I do have and send him to nowhere.
Yeah, because that's one thing. The general is characterized in the first 3/4 of the film as being very negative against Captain America, but he's never really characterized as a bad general. He is in charge of like the scientific branch of the military or whatever, and he does show that he's a good leader later on in the movie.
He's so ridiculously
macho.
No, he's just so ridiculous to Steve the entire time. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me why he'd be that condescending to
No one believed in him. That's part of the whole thing.
He's a super soldier.
Now he is. They've known this for an hour.
I know, but he still holds all of his previous prejudices of like, I don't give a shit about this guy. He can't do crap.
Remember how he was like pulling strings to make all this scientific research happen, and this was supposed to be the proof of concept to all these representatives, and now everything was destroyed. Everything that he had been working for months or years has just epically failed because of what just happened. He's so frustrated with everything around this situation that just Captain America, or just Steve Rogers, isn't enough to placate him. I think it's pretty reasonable.
That gives him no reason to have like zero faith in Steve's ability to do anything, though, as a soldier.
But again, he would be way more valuable as a research subject.
Perhaps, but that's not all it is.
Well, the whole movie is from from Steve Rogers' perspective, and all he wants to do is go to war. So as soon as we see that he's still now fit for battle and is still not allowed, we feel for the hero and want him to go.
There are more instances later, so we'll get to them as they come up.
Indeed.
So some government dude is like, well, I can make you a symbol on the most important battlefront of the war. And then he turns Steve into a propaganda showboy.
Oh yeah, Propaganda King, Captain Propaganda. Which, it's kind of interesting to see, because at first he is so shy and awkward about it, but as he goes from state to state, doing it more and more, he gets extremely charismatic and comfortable with the role of being in the spotlight all the time. And as weird as this whole situation was, it really prepared him for the role he would take in the future.
That's true, probably.
It helped make him a hero, and it helped give him charisma to be a leader.
It also gave him his name.
It did give him his name and his costume.
Yep. So it was good for something.
And it started shows and comics about Captain America.
This is also true.
The world's first superhero in this universe.
Correct.
Public one, at least.
So we go through those musical numbers, and then we end...
I love the musical numbers. I just love that whole montage. It's just great. It's just so cheesy and silly, but... And you see him, like, dying inside, but then slowly getting... and, like, liking it.
I actually don't love that part of the movie, but it's fine.
I liked it this time.
It's fair. I know it is really well done. I'm just like...
Yeah.
In my first watch of this movie, I was like, oh my god, this scene's lasting like 10 minutes of just them dancing. But now I appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah.
But anyways, his last show is in front of actual army soldiers and...
In Europe.
And they boo him off the stage and throw crap at him.
Because they want the girls. They don't really care about this man in a silly costume.
Yeah, which basically makes him feel like a dancing monkey, and he draws that.
He's a great artist.
He really is.
Yeah, I love that picture.
Like, he should do that more.
Who needs a super soldier? We have a super artist.
Exactly. So Peggy Carter comes to him while he's drawing that, and in talking to her, he finds out that the platoon that he just danced for is the 107th, who just lost a bunch of men, and that's also Bucky's platoon.
Indeed, and Bucky was one of the ones who was lost, or and Bucky was one of the ones who was captured by, you guessed it, Hydra.
Yep. So the colonel is an asshole to him when he asks about it, and then...
The colonel again believes that just Steve alone cannot rescue these soldiers because 400 people were captured and brought into this super high-tech military base far beyond the enemy lines. It is no small task to rescue these people.
I get that.
It's a suicide
and
mission.
I was actually surprised that the colonel, even gave his condolences, I'm sorry for your friend, that name sounds familiar, but immediately after that, Steve's just told his friend's dead, and he's like, what are you gonna do about it? You're a showboy. I'm just like, this is painful. You don't need to do this. Just stop talking.
Egging him on like that was lame and was bad, but him saying his condolences and stuff in the gruff way that he talks is very fitting for his military position. But yes, he should have handled it better. It kind of reminds me of the Frost Giant King baiting Thor, what are you gonna do? Go home, little princess, instead of just leaving the conversation as is. But again, this is a situation where the general had just lost 400 soldiers to the enemy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like the idea of this one spunky little kid that he knows thinking that, oh, I could save everyone on my own. It sounds absurd.
He didn't.
And that's the whole thing.
He never said that to him, though, did he? I mean, Steve never said that he would go in to him.
Did he not?
I don't think so.
I don't remember the details of that specific scene. I think he just suggested that they should go save them.
Yes.
Including himself, but not only himself. And he's like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. They're basically already dead. They probably are already dead.
Yeah. So Steve decides to go save them himself. And Agent Carter gets Howard Stark to help fly him there.
And talk about fondue.
Yeah.
I love Howard. He's great. He's the world's best pilot.
So to be fair, I don't think Steve is off base, assuming that we can go for a late night fondue is code for more.
He's not off base because that's totally what Howard meant.
I know.
Because he's a flirtatious jerk. But the whole point is, from Peggy's perspective, it's hey, Steve, you should know women enough to tell that I'm not interested in him.
Maybe it's because I'm also a man, but I would have asked the same question. So, do you two fondue? And she just doesn't answer him, and what is he supposed to assume?
No, that is reasonable because Peggy totally brushes it off in a very stoic way, where it could be oh, this boy trying to know what my relationship status is because clearly he wants me. I could see that being a reasonable thing to think, but whatever.
Yeah. Anyways, so
Cap skydives out of the plane, even though he's never done that before, into enemy lines.
Why is that a bad thing?
Skydiving without... I mean, I guess it's just jump out, pull the thing, but it seems like a dangerous thing to do without any prior experience.
He's Captain America.
It's skydiving.
For right now, all he has to do is jump out and pull the parachute. It doesn't seem that difficult to me.
Yeah, it's just a dangerous thing to do, and it's just kind of funny that there's a lot of things he does that are kind of weird for the first time.
Sure.
It's also kind of funny that he brings a shield. I mean, that he brings his prop shield and that he brings a prop helmet. I guess it's a real military-grade helmet, but it just seems like a weird excuse to get the classic uniform or costume. It's just kind of funny to me.
Yeah.
But we reached the halfway point of the movie, which is Captain America invading the base, the Hydra base.
And he frees the prisoners there to fight while he goes to search for Bucky.
who is being experimented on? I forgot about that.
You forgot about that?
Yeah, I forgot that Bucky was being experimented on, and I thought he was just with the rest of the soldiers when Steve rescues them. And during the rescue sequence, we meet some of the charismatic characters who become part of the Howling Commandos, and all of them escape while rampaging around the Hydra base, stealing their Tesseract-powered super weapons, and having a good old time.
Yep, and Steve also, well, he finds and gets Bucky and has his first encounter with Red Skull.
Speaking of which, though, why the hell do they keep going up in an exploding building?
Who, Red Skull?
That doesn't seem... No. Well, not Red Skull. Captain America and Bucky, they're like climbing up things instead of exiting. It seemed like a strange thing to do.
I assumed that
Maybe
was
they
how
had the
they
cross.
had to go to get the way out.
I guess. It was just weird. Did they actually... Oh, yeah, they never actually show them escaping. They just cut away after after Steve jumps through the explosion.
Yep.
It's a little weird. But, yeah, we have our first confrontation and the reveal of the Red Skull's real face that looks like a red skull. Fitting name. It's very convenient that he has a name just like that.
Sure, convenient.
Yeah.
But this is when the Red Skull tells Captain America that we've left humanity behind, and unlike you, I embrace it proudly. Which, at this point, I'm like, if you embrace it proudly, why do you wear a mask all the time?
Right? That's hilarious. It's like, dude, you've been hiding your real form, but you're like, no, I am basically a deity, and I am proud of everything about me. Then why have you been hiding?
Yep. But then from that point forward, he never has his mask on again.
Yeah. Wait, speaking of which, just the reason why they captured all those soldiers was to use the soldiers as like slave labor to help make the weapons. But they never really showed what that slave labor was, and I don't really understand how you'd use slave labor to make these super high-tech, finely created weapons. It just seemed wrong. It didn't really make sense to me.
I don't know enough about weapons manufacturing to respond to that.
I do, but anyways, the Red Skull and Zoloff escape in their two vehicles, the helicopter missile, whatever the hell thing, and the super cool car. And I like both of these vehicles so much, even though the helicopter missile makes no sense. Or the helicopter missile jet, whatever you want to call it.
Which I also have to say, Red Skull, I feel like he's a throwback to like maybe 50s villains or just like early superhero villains because he's always running away. He never stays in fights.
Yes, and his zaniness of how over the top he is, I actually like a lot compared to Justin Hammer, for example. His Justin Hammer's was really weird and off-putting, but the Red Skull's feels just right to me.
Yeah, the Red Skull, I mean, he's a good villain, to be honest. Like, he is he's kind of simple, I guess, but I don't know. He's good, and it feels like a real superhero villain. Like,
he's a super villain. He's like, I'm going to control the world. Ah ha ha ha.
Yeah, and I'm constantly
with my crazy weapons.
I'm going to use my brain, and every time we get attacked by the superhero, I'm going to flee and take the most powerful things with me. It's just so like, yes, it's classic.
For sure.
Yeah, because he never actually stays and fights Captain America.
Well, I mean, he punches him in that scene.
Right, but he never like actively seeks out combat. Every single time Cap finds him, he runs away. Until he can't run anymore.
Yes, this is true.
Which, to be honest, though, that could be seen as a weakness because we don't actually get a final fight between them. It's not like Super Soldier v Super Soldier. It's just... Well, we'll talk about that when we get there, but...
Yeah, it's kind of like Iron Man 1 in that regard. But yeah, Captain America returns from his first mission with with basically all the troops saved. They took a while, though. They arrived in the morning, which I guess is reasonable, but seemed like a little bit too much time. It doesn't matter. Yeah, Captain America and the rest of the 107th returned to the military base. Captain America's first mission was a success! And the Colonel finally accepts him for the super soldier he is.
Yeah, and in this scene, all the people who rescued him give him like applause and praise, and oh my god, I almost cried.
You almost cried? I'm like, why didn't they? Or I don't know. It was weird to me.
Weird. He finally gets the applause he deserves. He just saved all these people's lives. 400 people. By himself.
I only say this because he rescued them hours ago. And it just seemed like... It's like how in a lot of movies, conversations between characters happen at weird moments because you have to have it happen on screen. But it isn't when it should have happened. But to be fair, I guess the mission wasn't complete till they got to the base. I don't know. It just threw me off.
I don't see that as weird at all because they were in enemy territory. They had to get back. This is like the time that it would happen.
Yeah.
And
I didn't almost cry.
it warmed my heart.
Aw, Trey. And now that he has proven himself as a super soldier, he gets his own super troop, the Howling Commandos. Da, 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 da. Yeah, the Howling Commandos are finally formed. They have a good old time at a tavern, and all of them are like, you want us to go right back in after we were captured? Sure, sounds fun to me. And then they do.
I'm going to backtrack a little again.
Sure.
So right before that, they also talk about presenting a medal to Steve. And,
and Stan Lee's cameo.
Yeah, and Steve doesn't show up, just like Tony in Iron Man 1.
Indeed.
Which, to be honest, I still don't know why he didn't show up. They never really explained it. He was just, like, talking to the colonel.
He's not in it for the reward. He doesn't care, I guess. Even though he is, like, this public idol, and I feel like he should have done it for publicity's sake, but whatever. I don't know.
And that's... Yeah, because it seems like such an arrogant Tony Stark thing to do. Like, I'm just going to skip my reward show. I don't know. I don't really get it in this context.
Yeah, and it seemed kind of out of place anyways.
True.
So, but going back to the Howling Commandos, we have them form up, and we also have Peggy and Steve meet up again at the tavern.
And Bucky hits on her while she's talking about dancing and how she'll go dancing when this is all over with the right partner.
They're in love. Bucky and Peggy, it's true love.
Bucky.
That was a joke. Haha.
Okay.
Bucky makes a joke about how he's being ignored, like how Steve must have been when they were growing up, because everyone would always look at Bucky but not Steve. But now it's the other way around.
Yeah, which again feels kind of harsh and like, I don't know, you'd actually say that? I'm turning into you. I'm getting overlooked by women.
You don't understand the bromance.
Clearly I don't understand bromances.
Yeah. But now, So now, Steve brought back some Hydrotech that Howard had some science fun testing out. And they now understand a lot more. Well, they actually brought back like a Hydra tank and all sorts of weapons. So now they have a superhero, they have super weapons, and Steve found out where all the Hydra bases were except for one, and they're ready to strike back.
Yes, but first he goes to see Stark to get a weapon, and his secretary comes on to him.
Oh man, Marjorie Tyrell.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where she is. She has to be the very flirtatious, devious one to thank him for all of America's women.
Yeah. And I don't blame Steve for that at all, because this is, he seems kind of powerless. Like, this is the first woman who's tried to kiss him.
Yeah. Clearly he's afraid and nervous about it. And then it happens. He's like, okay, this is happening. But it kind of just seems like it was there to force some drama in between him and Peggy.
Because Peggy walks in on them. And...
Yeah.
Yep.
I love that the next scene is Howard explaining to him what fondue is, because he just had no idea what it was, because it's like a classy thing and he's just some normal kid.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, like Steve, like fondue is just cheese and bread. Now here, come look at these fancy shields.
Weapons.
Okay, well, they talk about the shields first, and he gets his super vibranium shield.
Yeah, which I thought that was like great because Howard starts trying to sell him on a weapon and he immediately is like, "Ooh, shield."
And then Peggy immediately shoots him
Yeah.
because of rage out of what just happened.
Yeah.
But I guess it works.
Like, is that really what they would turn the rarest metal on Earth into? They're just like, "Oh, rarest metal on Earth, let's just make a shield."
Yeah, no. I think they were just playing around with it, I guess. But just tiny little science thing. The sound of the bullets hitting the shield is not and wouldn't have been anything like that. Because if you cancel out vibrations, you cancel out sound. Sorry, I just have to talk about that really quick.
Okay, Henry.
Science! For science!
Whatever.
Yeah, well, vibranium is weirdly made for a shield. But now the Howling Commandos have their mission to take out all the Hydra bases, and we have a montage of them fighting through all these bases and being very, very, very successful. And they're recording.
What?
Oh, I was going to say, and they're recording and taking pictures and filming this for the future. Am I skipping something again that you wanted to talk about?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and Red Skull constantly on the run.
Yes, indeed.
I was confused about the reel of war footage. What was it for? Was it for promos?
Propaganda.
Okay.
Anything that, if you show how amazingly well America's doing, and not just America, Captain America, actually fighting in war, people will be more optimistic and support the war and buy more war bonds and just be more happy and proud and supportive, and that's really important during war, because war is pretty depressing.
That makes sense.
They had to deal with food rations and not using metals and stuff like that, because everything had to go to the war effort.
And Peggy sees on one of these reels that Steve has her picture. He carries it with him.
Where did he get that? Where did he get that picture? That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I had a note of that. I'm like, where did he get that? That's kind of creepy. They haven't had any real romantic... I mean, they've had a lot of tension, and they're clearly interested in each other. But getting the picture is a little weird. But to be fair, again, he's horrible with women. So I wouldn't put it past him to do that. It's just, where did he get the picture?
And this touches her heart.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, don't be mad now that he carries my picture."
Yeah. Something to mention in this scene is Captain America's kill count in this movie is really high. Like, Iron Man kills a bunch of people in his 2 movies, well, mainly the first one, but I think Captain America totally wipes the floor with him. But it's war, so it's kind of understandable. It's just kind of, once again, Marvel's movies are okay with the heroes murdering people as long as they're evil.
I can't even recall an instance of him killing someone.
Oh, he, like, throws a grenade in a tank, and he shoots guns. He kills lots of people.
He shoots guns?
Yeah. Like, the very first scene of the montage of battles is him busting through a door with the shield with one hand and shooting with the other.
Okay. Clearly I didn't notice this, probably because of the war setting.
Yeah. It's not that important, but the first scene that they show, not as a montage, is them attacking a train.
Yep, and the side of the train gets blown open and Bucky gets blown out the door.
I like how the soldier that blew up in the train kind of looks like Iron Man, like Mark 1. Even during World War II, because he just has, like, a bunch of armor and mounted Gatling guns on his arms.
I did not think about that.
Yeah, I like wrote him as like I wrote it down as like really primitive Iron Mans. I liked it. Also, all the laser sounds sounded like Iron Man's repulsor sounds.
Okay.
Then Bucky dies.
Yeah, Steve tries to save him, but he falls to his death.
He's very dead. He fell off a train into a gorge.
Which, I'm not really sure why they saved this death scene until now. Like, when Steve went in to rescue him from the base, he could have been dead, to be honest. And that could have given Steve the inspiration he needed to fight Hydra and the Red Skull.
I think it was very important for them to have fought in the war together first.
Why?
Because after, like, Bucky didn't really believe in him as a soldier, but once Steve saved him, he followed him not as Captain America, but as that little boy in Brooklyn. And that really reinforced in Steve's mind that he's still the same old person. And them fighting alongside each other in the war is all he ever wanted.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't feel like we get much development into Buffy's character after that, or after his rescue. So I'm like, why did they even need to rescue him? But
What are you talking about? There's the whole scene at the bar. And, like, what I'm talking about, the whole scene of saying, like, I'm not following Captain America, I'm following you. And then, yes, the montage. But that scene is very important. And this scene, because Bucky dies because he tries to save Captain America first, which is a very Captain America move. And he does that by using Captain America's shield.
I just don't think he's really developed that much.
I mean, this is the origin story for Captain America. I think that's okay.
I think they do justice to all of the characters except Bucky. I think they could have done better with Bucky.
Fair enough. I like Bucky in his scenes. But at the end of this scene, they do capture Zola. Dr. Zola.
Yep. And he's the only one who doesn't take a cyanide pill from Hydra.
Because he is not fully committed to the cause. Unlike Captain America, he values his life very highly and does not want to die.
Yeah.
He is not like other members of Hydra who, if you try to kill them, they'll just say, if you kill me, just 2 more will come back or grow back. He's not like that. He wants to live.
Yeah. But America basically forces his hand on keeping secrets by letting slip a telegram that he helped them already.
Yeah. But, I mean, that was relatively reasonable. They're like, hey, you're going to get killed anyways. You should help us.
It gives him no reason not to help them, so he does.
Indeed, Dr. Zola reveals the location of the final base and reveals that reveals that Red Skull's target is everywhere. Dun dun dun, starting with America, using his super Tesseract powered jet thing called the Valkyrie, which is very fitting that it has a Norse mythology name when it is based off the treasure of Odin, the Tesseract.
I have to be honest, this is where I started to get lost a little bit. Not really lost, but their mission doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what's the point of going and just blowing things up?
He is going to destroy all of his enemies, like, by destroying these great cities, especially America, crumbling their military forces, and showing his incredible might. He will become the god of this world because no one can stand in his way.
But he's not just crumbling military forces. He's literally like destroying entire sections of different countries, like everywhere in the world. I'm just gonna drop bombs everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can partially blame it. It's kind of like the Abomination where he goes kind of crazy with the serum. You can kind of blame it how with his serum, he's also going a little crazy because it's pushing all of his darkness. But yeah, it is kind of weird. He's comically evil.
Right. I guess I just wish they explained his reasoning a little more. Like, yes, destroying the world is a classic villain thing, but I need a why.
Yeah. Because he's gonna take over the world, Trey.
Yeah.
Yeah. We then cut to Captain America in a destroyed bar being sad because he can't get drunk. And Peggy comes and reassures him and also explains the information that they had just found out.
Which I don't really understand why Steve thinks it's that Bucky's death is his fault. Like, is it just because he chose him for the mission?
He believes it's his fault because Bucky saved him. He would have been the one who died. And because he has so much power, he has the ability to save people, and he failed to save Bucky. That's how I see it, and that's what Peggy's trying to reassure him of. It's like, hey, it's not your fault. Like, he's just another soldier, and he died in action. This is what happens. It's awful. It's never good when it happens, but this is what Bucky signed up for.
Okay. So Steve is now more inspired to stop Red Skull.
And he is going to invade head on with this super crazy motorcycle that he's had no experience with.
You don't know that.
Actually, you're right. I don't know that. But that motorcycle's awesome. Why doesn't he use this more?
I think he does, doesn't he? Later on?
Not this super tricked out one.
I don't know.
We can't talk about it.
Okay.
But, okay. Yeah, I really wish he used this more in like those flashbacks and stuff. Because this is a cool motorcycle. Like, it has all sorts of gadgets that Howard Stark presumably made They should have showed this motorcycle when they were showing him the shield.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, in fact, they probably did after they cut away from the scene.
Yep. It's kind of unnecessary anyway.
But it's so cool!
Yes.
So one thing I did want to say about this scene of this front-on one-man invasion is that a lot of the scream sound effects of the Hydra soldiers, a lot of the screams are the same exact scream. And it's like this really stereotypical sound effect from like games and movies, and it bothered the crap out of me.
It's actually from It's actually from one specific movie.
What movie is it from? It's bothering the crap out of me right now.
I don't remember, but it's like a classic now, so almost every film uses that one scream that was in that one movie in history.
Oh, but they used it so much.
I didn't think it was used so much. I only noticed it twice, but
it stood out to me really harshly, and it bothered the crap out of me. But the rest of the scene was awesome, like the motorcycle and stuff, just those screams.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I always notice it now ever since I learned about it, so I don't really judge that.
Yeah, I learned about it, and I know it's used greatly. I just thought it wasn't used well here, and it stood out to me.
It's called the Wilhelm scream.
The Wilhelm scream?
Yes. Beginning in 1951 for the film Distant Drums.
Okay, whatever.
That's all.
So Captain America is captured by the Hydra soldiers and brought to the Red Skull, because clearly killing him is not the right decision. Who would kill the enemy? Crazy.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like a Voldemort thing, like Red Skull had to be the one to kill him.
I think it was, because he was the one who was causing so many problems. He single-handedly is the one who destroyed all the other bases. Except for the one that the Red Skull exploded himself.
Yeah, exactly.
When Cap pisses off Red Skull by saying... Red Skull views himself as a deity. So he is all high and mighty and hates that Dr. Abraham chose him to be the one who got the true, perfect serum. And he's like, what makes you better than me, this brilliant scientist? And Steve is like, I'm just some guy from Brooklyn. And this enrages the Red Skull, and the Red Skull punches Steve. And again, he says his, I don't want to say catchphrase, but it's kind of his catchphrase, I can do this all day. Then the Howling Commandos break through the window right before the Red Skull would shoot him in the face.
Yes, which I'm not really sure why Cap couldn't just break through the window with them, to be honest.
I think the whole thing was to distract them and think that that was all that they were going to do. It was a little weird, too. I was a little confused by that as well.
Okay.
It also ensured that the Red Skull would be in the room where they jump in, I guess, even though there's no reason to expect that for sure.
How would it ensure that?
That's my point. It doesn't really make sense. I mean, that's what I was saying. There's no way I think the whole plan was just to distract them and to... I mean, Cap definitely did a lot of damage before he was captured.
Yeah.
But I don't know what his plan was of escaping. Other than the Howling Commandos coming in.
That was the plan.
Yeah, but what if he was just killed by the people that captured him?
It had to be this exact timing in order to stop him from dying, so...
Yeah, this is another just example of, oh, this is just how the movie works. Oh, this is something I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of things in Captain America that just seem like it's just convenient timing, which Iron Man 1 wasn't like that. There were a few moments where it's like, oh, I guess now he's inspired, like Iron Man seeing the footage from the village in the Middle East being controlled by the people that were using his weapons. That's one thing. In this movie, if Captain America wasn't at the exact military base with Bucky's exact platoon, which, by the way, I feel like he would have already known that was the 107th platoon, and I don't think they would be doing a USO show for like 40 people when their whole platoon was captured. I feel like they would wait a few days. I think it just happened.
I feel like
there's
that's
just
probably...
a few weird things.
That's probably them trying to cheer them up.
Maybe.
I don't have a problem with him performing for Bucky's platoon.
No, but my whole point is there are a lot of scenes where it's like oh, what a coincidence. We're just ready for you to happen. Like, oh, what a coincidence. It's not as...
What are the other coincidences, though? Because this is the only one that that you've mentioned so far.
Dr. Abraham finding Captain America to begin with was the biggest one.
Oh, come on.
What you mean, oh, come on?
He's literally at the enlistment place, and
he was
right next to where he would be
at
enlisting.
the World Fair, at some World Tech Fair, and he was about to walk out of the building as Steve just walked in.
He wasn't about to walk out. He was just walking,
Wasn't he?
or he was just walking in the hallway.
Either way,
Right next to the enlistment area where Steve would be enlisting. So that is not a plot
was a
hole.
coinky dink.
No. It was a very minor coincidence. I don't consider that a major thing.
I would say more, but I don't want to slow down too much. Even if it was just those two, it just kind of pushed it a little bit in a way that I thought was a little off to me.
I think you're being too critical right now because
I know. I feel like everyone right now is thinking that I hate this movie because I'm being really critical. And I'm only pointing out the flaws that I saw. I hope I'm also doing a good job of showing that I really do like this movie. And when we explain at the end with our ratings, it will be clear what I think, for sure. So, back to this invasion. Captain America and now the Howling Commandos have taken over the base. One thing of note that I wanted to talk about is how the Colonel fought with the Howling Commandos, just like a really good leader. He fought with his soldiers.
I don't have anything to say about the fight scene.
Yeah,
so
I just want to say, like, even if he's a jerk, he is a good leader. And that is something I like. And I also like that later, when the Valkyrie takes off, he's the one that helps Captain America catch up to the Valkyrie before it takes off.
The Colonel after Steve proves himself with the first mission, the Colonel starts backing him up and supporting him throughout the rest of the movie, which is good because it shows that he's not like just a completely pig-headed jerk. It's just before that I have an issue with him.
Yeah, I think it was reasonable. And I like that they show that, yeah, he definitely accepted Steve once Steve proved himself.
Yes.
But now we're racing in the supercar to the Valkyrie.
Yep. And
Peggy's there too.
And Peggy, right when Steve's about to jump out of the car into the plane thing and do crazy things or he might die, Peggy drags him down and kisses him, which catches him totally off guard, but is all romantic and whoop-de-doo. And
yeah, it's a little weird in the moment.
It's kind of a weird moment, but considering he's about to die, it kind of makes sense too.
They don't know that.
Well,
they should.
It's a very
don't.
high probability, which kind of seems like why she would do it.
Yeah, it seemed like kind of a weird forced thing to finish the romantic storyline of the movie that could have... I think the final scene with Pim and Peggy did a better job of that, and the kiss wasn't necessary. I did like the general's joke. It's like, I'm not kissing you, before he jumps out of the car.
Yeah.
So that made me accept the scene.
I'm okay with the kiss.
Yeah, no, it was fine. But I like the general's response more than Peggy's.
Sure.
But now we're on the Valkyrie.
Yes.
Where all the missile jet helicopters powered by the Tesseract are labeled by their target.
Makes sense. The pilot needs to know where they're going.
Sure. It's definitely not like the pilots would know or anything. Which they drop out of the Valkyrie almost as soon as they take off, which kind of makes it confusing as to what's the point of the Valkyrie if they just have these crazy missiles. Like, if they're going to launch them as soon as they take off, what's the point of the Valkyrie part? I thought the Valkyrie is going to get you there super fast and attack itself, not use these weird missiles that are also helicopters and jets.
I thought they were launching as they got closer to their target.
Almost as soon as Captain America got into the Valkyrie, like as soon as the landing gear came up, they launched the one for Chicago, I think, which I don't know if they ever stopped.
Was there more than one launched at the time?
Yeah, the New York one, I think, which is the one that Cap went into.
Oh, I didn't know there was two.
Yeah, the first one was the Chicago one, and the second one was the New York one.
Okay.
Anyways, Captain America stops it by taking it over and then crashing it back into the Valkyrie, which, for one, when the hell did he become Captain Pilot with a weird, super, ultra high-tech helicopter jet thing that he's never seen before? He pilots it well enough to crash straight back into the Valkyrie, which they must be going supersonic if they're going to get so close to, like, North America in, like, 5 minutes.
I'm
which
sure it's
obviously
just a steering wheel and a gas pedal.
All of this makes no sense. And also, it doesn't explode when it crashes back in, which I guess is reasonable because a lot of missiles are made to be like that. But I don't know if they have the technology at the time. But again, it's Hydra; they have super crazy technology, so who cares? It was. I didn't like him being a pilot. It wasn't necessary.
It kind of was necessary for him to get back, though.
Well, yeah, but they wrote themselves into a corner. They shouldn't have done that. It wouldn't have made sense to launch the missile so soon. They should have waited.
To be fair, I don't know. Is it really that hard to pilot things?
Yes. I have flown a plane, literally. If you have no experience of piloting, yes. It's not the same as driving a car. It's you're moving in 3 dimensions, not 2. Also, this is a super high-tech, crazy plane, missile, jet thing, helicopter, whatever the hell they are. Yes.
Okay, so it's a little bit of faulty logic.
Yeah, but he's Pilot America now.
He's just a little OP, like Rey from Star Wars.
Well, it's like him remembering all the military bases. He clearly also had his intelligence boosted, but they don't really go into that very much.
I mean, for all we know, he did have pilot experience. We don't know.
Well, they should have shown it if they did. I doubt it. But, so anyways, he takes care of the missiles. He goes up to the pilot's quarter area, and the Red Skull goes up to shoot him kind of not very quietly. So Cap has a chance to dodge. He should have been a little more stealthy, that Red Skull man. Well, anyways, we have the final confrontation.
Sky
of Captain
battle.
America. Sky battle in a jet. They push the jet steering so they're floating around because every sky battle has to have that moment. Then they go back into autopilot, so it's fine.
Have we had other sky battles yet? We had a little bit in Iron Man. We had
Not like a plane battle.
not a plane, but it was a sky battle. But I'm saying this is a sky battle, and how many have we had so far? Because there's a lot in the Marvel movies.
I mean, every Iron Man fight has sky elements, except for the final fight in Iron Man 2, because they stay in the garden and don't really fly
And
after they land.
I don't know if the Hulk jumping onto helicopters counts.
I don't think so. If you're not sustaining your own flight, I don't think it counts.
Okay. Anyways, sky battle.
They fight. Red Skull loses. Captain America throws his shield at the Tesseract energy generator thing, which of course it's in the pilot's quarter instead of some maintenance area or something. And it's about to go crazy. And the Red Skull grabs the Tesseract, and it's not really clear what happens, but he kind of gets teleported away.
Teleported? It looked to me like he disintegrated and was killed.
I specifically was going to say it looks like he was either burned away or was being teleported away, and it's never clear. But he's a dead man, or just not on Earth anymore.
He screams pretty painfully as he disintegrates, so I don't know. It seemed like a definite death to me, but I guess it's possible it wasn't.
I don't know if it's spoilers to talk about fan theories about... Basically, fan theories at the time after this movie came out thought that the Red Skull was going to pop up in like a space movie like Thor in the future. So this is why I say teleported instead of it, although it did look like he was disintegrating. And as soon as he does disintegrate and fades away, the Tesseract falls to the ground and melts all the way through the plane to the ocean.
I'm not even really sure what happened here. Like, Steve's shield hitting the energy center, like, made the Tesseract act up.
He basically just broke the machine in the Tesseract couldn't fit in the slot anymore.
But the Tesseract, would that have done that normally? Like what it was doing? Because it was freaking out. It was sending its energy all over the place.
It freaked out once he grabbed... I don't know. It's kind of weird. But it freaked out once he held it.
But is that because a human can't hold the Tesseract? Or is that because something was happening with the Tesseract and it was like already freaking out, giving off energy streams?
I think both. A mortal can't carry an Infinity Stone.
Is that true for all of them?
No? Yes? I don't know. As of now, we know that a human cannot touch the Tesseract without dying.
We know that?
It was I think so. I think it's pretty clear at this moment. If you touch it, you die.
That's exactly why I don't know what's happening at this moment, because they don't make it clear that it's because he touched it.
Yes, this scene is kind of confusing, and it's kind of an unsatisfying end to the fight that Captain America doesn't actually do anything. But it's another instance of Marvel killing the villain, even if the hero didn't do it himself. Like in Iron Man 2, they killed off Whiplash, even though Iron Man didn't do it himself.
Yeah, it was definitely dissatisfying, though, just to happen.
Yeah.
Kind of fade away. Oops, okay, bye.
Yeah, and now Captain America, afraid that the other missiles will make it to... The other super weapons are going to make it to America. He crashes the plane into... It's probably Greenland. I don't know. The North Pole or Greenland or something. Some icy place.
Yeah, and he has this heart-wrenching call with Peggy, saying goodbye and talking about how they're gonna dance when they see each other again on Saturday.
Oh my god, date night!
I really appreciate this scene, and I don't know, just the fact that
It is a really sweet scene.
and the fact that he doesn't get a happy ending, and he does sacrifice himself. It's really well done,
It's very fitting for his character.
and it's completely unexpected.
What do you mean it's unexpected? This movie starts with a flashback of him already being in the freaking jet in the ice. And we already know that he's going to be in the modern movies.
Or
do you mean the scene with Peggy and his interaction itself?
No, I think the fact that he decides to crash to his own death was unexpected.
I guess for me, going into Captain America, knowing a little bit more about the universe, I knew exactly what was going to happen, so it was a little... It's like seeing a scene in a trailer. When I see a scene like that in the movie, I'm like, all right, get on with it. I've already seen this part. Like, yes, it's a touching moment, but since I already know exactly what's going to happen, it doesn't really do it for me as much. But his interaction with Peggy is what really does it for me in that scene. It's not what he's doing, it's just the interaction. And why it matters.
The first time I watched this movie, and well, pretty much a lot of times I've watched this movie, I completely forget about the opening scene. Like, every time. We're just like, oh, Cap Shield, and then all of a sudden the movie actually starts and we go through his journey. So I'm not thinking about the fact that we saw his shield in the ice, and that means that he's dead and whatever. I am watching the movie, and I get to the end and I'm like, oh my god, this hero is killing him, like sacrificing himself. He's actually dying, and he doesn't get his happily ever after.
Phase 1 does have a lot of flashbacks.
Yes, it does.
So, Crash of America has now crashed into the ice. The Colonel, Peggy, and Howard Stark are searching for him for a long time. They find the Tesseract, which I forgot that they find it this soon.
Yeah, because apparently the U.S. government has just had it this whole time.
Yeah, because they mentioned Fury shows that they have the Tesseract in the ending credit scene of Thor. So we already know that they have it. I just didn't realize that they had it this entire time, unless they lost it and got it back.
Which, to be honest, makes me question... Well, hopefully it'll be answered in Avengers. But it makes me question why Avengers happens now, as opposed to in the past. But we'll hopefully see.
Yeah, it's a little weird. And after they show the scene of them searching for Captain America, they show that the legend of Captain America is spreading and living on, and kids are running around with Captain America's shields, and he, although gone now, is still a hero that will be well-renowned for all time. And wow, what a long flashback. I'm so glad we can get back to the present.
Sure.
So all that's left in the movie is just a scene of Captain America waking up in the current era, and they set up a room for him that looks like it was from his time, even though they messed up with this radio recording that they were playing for him, because they played a game that he had already seen. In fact, he was there. Which I think is really weird. It's like, come on, you couldn't play one from a year later?
I know, like right after his death, not before.
Also, presumably, like, everything with Captain America going around America doing all these shows, he did at least 200 shows. Like, he was probably at this for at least a year. Like, why would he play a broadcast from before he even left America?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but anyways, he goes crazy and he runs out into the street and jaywalks again. He keeps jaywalking. He loves running through the street and finds out he's in the modern world, and Fury's like, yo, you've been asleep for a while.
70 years.
Yep. And that's the end of the movie.
Well, it ends with the line, I had a date.
Oh, yeah, which is cute. Also, really quick, just with the end credits, the start of the credits, and throughout the movie, they use Captain America's theme very well. And this is the best use of a character's theme of all of the movies we've had so far. Like, when he becomes Captain America, they play his theme. And when he has his first mission, like, they play his theme. I really appreciate that. Because Marvel could really do with pushing their characters' themes harder.
Indeed.
So after credit scene, we have Captain America punching a punching bag. And then he punches it really hard.
And Fury comes in, and Cap's like, you trying to get me back in the world? And Fury's like, no, I'm trying to save it.
And then we have a really awkward Avengers trailer.
Yeah. Like, oh, the end credit scene is actually a trailer. Which, was this the release of the Avengers trailer? Was it the first time it was shown?
I think so, yeah.
Because I guess that makes sense, but...
Yeah, they're pushing it really hard, which is reasonable. But it's just funny.
Yeah, it's awkward looking back, and you're like, end credit scene is a trailer, okay.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So, I guess we're ready to rate the movie?
Yeah, Trey, how about you explain what our rating system is?
Ooh. Sure. So, basically, how our rating system works is we use tiers instead of numerical or grades. Basically, F is... this is trash, this is the worst thing ever, it should not exist. D is, this is bad, it's not okay, it also shouldn't exist. Or like, how did this get made, it should have been better. C, it's okay, it's fine, it's not good or bad. B, this is a solid film, it's good. A, this is a great movie. A+, this movie is amazing, it's just shy of perfect, has a few flaws that stop it from being flawless. And S, this movie is as good as it gets. It's perfect. I love it.
So Trey, what would you rate this movie?
I had some trouble with this because I feel like this movie is done so well the entire time. I think it's practically flawless, and it just does such a great job with all of its characters and its story and setup, and even the villain. However, it does have some flaws, like the stuff with Red Skull and the other stuff we talked about. I think could have been communicated a little better. So I really want to give this movie an S, but with its flaws and my personal level of enjoyment would probably be more around A+. So that's what I'm going to give it. It's getting an A+. It is a really, really good movie, almost S level, just not quite there.
I am also going to give it an A+, for about the same reasons Trey said, but the flaws that it had were very noticeable. Whereas Iron Man 1, it had a few flaws. No movie is perfect, like purely perfect, but they were easily ignorable. In Captain America, the flaws that were there really stuck out to me and kind of bothered me a little bit. But aside from that, the story was really good, the characters were really well done, and I liked it a lot. But there are a few things nagging at me which held it back from what I would rate as perfection.
Which, to be honest, I think is just you favoriting Iron Man over Captain America, because I think the opposite. I think Iron Man has more noticeable flaws, and I think this movie is way more well done than Iron Man.
Fair enough.
But I did give them the same rating.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I definitely prefer Iron Man to Captain America. I like them both. Like, they are... Well, as far as Phase 1, of course, they're my two favorite heroes, because the Hulk and Thor's movies weren't as exceptional, even though I love Thor. He's such a great character.
I just think this movie is so cinematic. Like, I don't know. It's so artistic. It feels like art to me almost. Whereas,
Oh, what a beautiful sentiment,
yeah,
Trey.
and Iron Man's a really good movie, but it's not art.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I mean, this also has the benefit of being a period piece, which makes it feel more like art and more in the cinematic vein. So there's that going for it.
That's true. That's understandable. So I think that just about covers it. So, Trey, where can they find us?
You can find us on facebook.com/marvelousmcu, and you can send us an email at marvelousmcupodcast@gmail.com.
And please like and subscribe and rate us on iTunes and share it with all your friends. And if you leave us a review or if you email us, we might share it on the show.
Yep, so thanks for listening, and we hope you'll tune in next time for The Avengers.